Elena gets dragged down the hallway, and Kyle almost loses a finger on this back-to-school special edition of Backstage. Welcome to Backstage. This is the Advanced Podcast. We thought we were canceled, but the network decided to give us another shot at it.
Right.
But we really got to pull it together this season, everybody. Today, I am joined by the lovely Kyle Cole and the handsome Elena Floyd.
Thanks.
Yeah. So back to school season is upon us, and we are obviously not going to school anymore, or not what do you call it? Primary education.
Yeah,
K
no
through
more
12?
primary.
No more primary. We made it out.
Made it.
But it is back to school season, so I thought we should sit down and talk about it because back to school is like a very, very significant time of the year every single year. So what, like, when you were, let's say high school, because would you say that you peaked in high school?
Definitely. Senior year, for sure.
Right.
Yes.
So in high school,
It's been
like,
downhill
ever since then. So what was, let's do a best and worst year. Best
Great.
part of going back to school, worst part of going back to school.
Okay. Best part was...
And let's say school itself. So don't say, because like
getting ready
shopping,
for it.
right. Shopping
I
can't
love
count.
shopping.
Spending mom and dad's money on stuff that you
Book
would.
fairs. Just kidding.
Scholastic book fair.
Yes. I would say the best part of going back to school for me, about actual school, would be probably just hanging out with my friends and figuring out who was in my classes. I know now I think you're able to like see it a little bit earlier, but it would be like I'd go into homeroom and then you'd get your schedule and then you'd like throughout the day I'm like, oh, my other friend's in here, my other friend's in here. So that was really exciting for me.
What about you, Dr. Cole?
Man.
Best and worst.
Right now? But both?
I mean, yeah. I
I
mean,
want to say my worst.
Oh, my.
well,
the
yeah.
best-
We'll start with best, and then we'll hit the worsts.
The best thing going back to school for me was I was like into sports, so I was always excited to get back into, there's nothing like school sports, especially in our town, was like basketball. Yep. Basketball was a huge deal. It's kind of what our school hangs their hat on. So it was really awesome to get back to playing, and I was at least good enough to be a significant part of it where I was in the conversation. So so that was nice too. But that was exciting, and just like the vibe of getting back there and like seeing friends that, even though it was a small town, like you didn't hang out a ton, especially if you couldn't drive yet. So it was like, yeah, it was socially kind of fun to be back at school.
Yeah. Where was the after-school hangout for your school?
Oh.
You mentioned the thing of not driving around a ton. There was a gas station near my school that like 40 or 50 kids every day would go and just like sit in the parking lot and hang out for 20 minutes. And I would just, I didn't get my license until senior year, so I was driving by and I was like, oh, and then just kind of had to drive by.
Yes. So this was
Well,
your worst
I
story.
can't be like, Mom, come pick me up, but then drop me off at the gas
gas
station a mile away. And then come back there in 30 minutes.
Drop me off, yeah. Yeah, that'd be a bad luck. But we had a pizza shop. It's been a revolving door of different pizza shops, I think, since I've been there. But the pizza shop was a pretty decent spot.
A lot of tax evasion going on
Yeah,
there.
who's to say? I'm not sure. So,
You're not at liberty to say.
I'm not. Yeah, part owner. So
After school hangout?
Oh my gosh, Taco Bell. So where I grew up, it's called Harrisburg, North Carolina. Shout out. We literally just now in 2019, we finally got a Chick-fil-A, and it's because on all of the Facebook boards about Harrisburg, North Carolina, everyone has been complaining for years about why we don't have a Chick-fil-A, because we only had a Taco Bell and a Sonic drive-through. So it would be like you'd have half the school goes to Taco Bell and then half goes to Sonic.
And which one did the cool kids go to?
Taco Bell.
That's right.
That Baja Blast.
Okay, so what about the worst part? Going back to school.
Man. I would say worst part would be the first week is a great week, right? Because honestly, you're on a high of like, this is awesome because I get to see all my friends. Like, the work isn't too hard yet.
Right.
I'm like, the teachers are still being like really kind, and they're not like frustrated with the class yet. Like, it's going great, right?
Can you confirm?
It's known as the honeymoon period.
The honeymoon, yes.
Yeah, that's what we call
So
it.
I would say it's like you go in and you're like, oh my gosh, this year is going to be great. And then it's like 3 weeks in, you have your first test and you get it back and it's like, you got a 72, and then everybody's mad all the time, and everybody's stressed, and then everybody starts wearing their like pajamas to school when they're not supposed to. The school just gets on fire.
Figuratively.
Yeah.
So you've got it as a student and as a teacher.
Yeah.
What was the worst part of coming back?
Ooh. I would say it was harder as a teacher. It was harder to come back as a teacher, I feel like, because there was a lot more pre-work to be
Yes.
done.
I can't even
before-
imagine.
The pregame setup? Yeah.
As a student, it's just like you just show up and you see what happens. You collect those syllabuses and you you look through it. You're like, which things do I need to study for? Where are the hot button things here that I really need to pay attention to?
Right.
That was probably the worst, is just getting back into the groove after being off all summer
Yes.
and having more flexibility is coming back to like a routine and like retraining your body too, because your sleep schedule is completely different as well.
Yeah.
Right.
So
You saying the thing of not knowing what to study for, I don't know why this pinged in my head. My school, I don't know how your school did it or your school did it,
Yeah.
but my school assigned lockers based on your last class. And I had like all of my, math, English, science, 1, 2, and 3. Class number 4, Spanish, opposite side of the school. Breaks are only 5 minutes. The school's so big that there's no way to get there and back in time. So I just did not use a locker that entire year. I just put all 4 books and all the other stuff that you'd have to carry to class in the backpack. I'm walking around with like a 30-pound backpack.
I think everyone knows that kid too. The
Yeah.
kid with the locker on the Spanish side of the school. Like, you know who he is. It's like, my goodness, where does he get a book bag that large?
By senior year, he has the rolling backpack because he's just like,
He's
can't
hunched
take
over
it.
from the weight of just literally carrying school.
I remember news stories, like local news. I guess it was a slow news cycle. This is before like politics were fun to talk about on the news. And they were like, look, students' back problems on the rise from carrying heavy book bags. And I was like, nah, I'll be fine.
The poster child.
And then you just just out of curiosity, let's pop this on the 30 pounds. I'm carrying 30 pounds on my back every day, and I'm 14. This won't stop my growth or be a problem in any way. I was thinking of, this is sort of a back to school story because I think I had been sick maybe. So this was like November or April. Who knows? I was in first grade. Who can remember? This is the most horrified I have ever been in school. And I was in first grade, so I guess it's not that hard to do. Other than the time that I flushed a toilet and it overflowed in the school, because that terrified me too. It was actually a urinal, and I'm still not sure how it happened, but whatever, that's in the past.
He needs to journal about that still.
The most scared I've ever been is I think I was coming off of being sick, and then I decided that morning, or my mom decided that morning, because do you make the decisions when you're in first grade? All right, let's go back to school. And so I got to school at like 8:45. And the office is in the front, and my school is like down the hall, and then you take a really far down the hall, and then some more down the halls. So a lot of turns, because it was just a big square building, so it was kind of a labyrinth. And my mom comes in the front door with me, and she's like, go like run to your class so you don't miss more. I'll go to the office. And I turn the corner, and you know that scene from like The Walking Dead or any other apocalyptic movie where like they're in a school or a hospital and like the lights are kind of flickering and it's all
Yes.
dark and kind of horrifying? That's what was going on in my mind. In reality, it was probably just that the lights were off. But I was like, something's up here. And I'm like walking down the hallway, and I'm realizing it's darker and darker. And then I like turn to my hallway, like pitch black, because there's no windows in the center of the school because it's a big
Right.
square. Like running, just sprinting back to the office. I'm like, Mom, something's going on. Turns out the entire K through 6, because 6th grade was in my elementary school, the entire K through 6 field trip that day to the local minor league baseball stadium. Buses already left. Buses left at like 8:15.
Oh my gosh.
And my mom was about 2 minutes from leaving me there, and I think there was maybe one person in the administrative office, but everybody else is gone. And I was like, they're all dead. What has happened? What did you take me back to? How long was I sick?
Oh, man.
That's so scary.
Oh, yeah, I was mortified. I was in first grade, so that was, 5 or 6? Mm-hmm. And
while we're down that trail, that jars like a terrifying memory of mine. And I know this is more targeted for 6th through 12th grade advanced podcast, but I think some big things have stemmed from my experience as a 2nd grader. I just remember I had this teacher, won't use her name, out of respect, but she lines us all up the first day in front of her door. And we're like, what is going on? And you were 2nd graders, so we probably didn't say that, but it was just like, just that feeling of like, what are we doing?
Oh, this is fun.
Yeah, and she has one of those big pencils. The ones are like, this, like
a quarter in diameter.
Yeah, those huge ones with a huge eraser on it. And we're like, okay, well, maybe she's taking our height or something. I don't know. And she opens the door a little bit and slides it in the door, like the slot, and lets the door shut, and it snaps the pencil completely in two and just obliterates it and looks at us, and she's like, you do not put your fingers anywhere near this door. Do you understand? And I think we were all just like, yeah, we got a great visual. And I don't think we opened the door all year. I think we just waited at the door. So, having been a teacher now, I'm just like, probably the kid the year before got his finger in it, and she just needed to cover her bases.
She was avoiding some future lawsuits.
Yeah, but it was
Points
just
out
like,
the kid like in
it's
3rd
scary
grade
enough that I'm a 33-year-old adult, and I still remember like the door. I remember the pencil just blowing up into smithereens.
It just explodes and all the wood.
Explodes, and like there's
that
wood chips in the wall. It's just like
probably an effective demonstration.
It was insane, man. I still remember it. It was crazy.
I'm just glad it wasn't a disciplinary thing.
Right.
If you step out of line in my class.
Oh my God.
If she wanted to take it a step further, she would grab like the custodian that's missing a finger for whatever reason that a custodian's missing a finger, pops in, and he's like, hey, you kids watch out for that door.
Got me when I was dusting. Yeah. Watch out. Yeah. That was crazy.
Lainey, any traumatizing school stories?
Oh my gosh.
Any kids losing their fingers in the door? I'm gonna feel bad if some kid actually lost their finger in your school. Any traumatizing school stories for you?
I have for me like an embarrassing story. So I've come to realize, and I think this is a part of getting ready for school, I always anticipated something embarrassing happening to me that year because something always did happen to me. And
the dodgeball mentality. If you have low expectations, you can't fail to meet them.
Yes. And so by the time I'm a junior in high school, like I'm just ready. Like I'm like, okay, like I've been humbled many years by embarrassing things. And so junior year, I was on the swim team. And when you're on the swim team, or any sport, and you have a meet that day, you have to dress up. And so I was going through this phase my junior year, kind of like you were talking about with your locker. Instead, I didn't have a book bag. I just wanted to hold all my books with me. It was a really weird phase I went through. And so I was carrying all my books. I was wearing a dress. I had flats on. Okay, got the visual, right? It's raining. It's a dark day. It's dreary. And so I should have known what was coming. And so I walk out into the breezeway, which is like the outdoor corridor, and I walk back into the school. And as I'm doing that, everybody's changing classes. I take one step off of the rug that was like right as you walk in, and my foot just starts slipping. And it just keeps going. And it doesn't stop. And I've never done a split in my life until this moment. And I'm in a full split, like on the floor in front of everyone, and I freeze. And then I start laughing because I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, what is going on?
Books still in hand?
I had one in my hand, and I had put others on the ground because I was just like, this is crazy.
Put them. Yeah. Gravity did.
And for all my ladies out there, when you're wearing a dress, you got to be careful with how you get up off the floor. And so I'm like, I don't know how to like do this and recover myself well. And all of a sudden, this boy who was like he's a senior. He was like the cutest boy on the swim team, walks past, and he's so kind. And he goes, oh my gosh, let me help you. And he went to help me. I'm still in a split at this point. And he goes and he takes my hands and he starts pulling me. And instead of helping me up, he just slides me across the floor.
And
and just like in the split. And I lost it.
I just have carpet burned out.
I literally was just like, this is it. Like, this is the moment. And so I just like start laughing. And then eventually he got flustered because he didn't know like that this was going to happen. So then he proceeds to go under my armpits and like pick me up.
Like a baby.
Like a baby. And it was literally like first period going to second period. So the whole day I'm just like thinking about this fall, and pretty much the whole school saw it. So that was one of the worst things.
Okay, let me say, because I think
Sorry, that was a long story.
No. Let me say, because we kind of breezed past it. If you're listening to this or if you're watching this, if you have not been picked up by your armpits since you were a toddler, go find one of your strong friends and have them pick you up by the armpits. It is one of the most humbling experiences
It truly is.
of your life. I guarantee
you automatically turn back to a baby.
Yeah. You will feel like the smallest human being in the world when somebody picks you up by your armpits, because you're powerless. You can't do anything. You can't kick. You can't punch because your arms are kind of uncomfortable.
Also, when you were a baby, you used to get picked up all the time there, and I was sore after that happened because it's like,
you
know,
it's
uncomfortable.
It's not good.
But you know what? He did his best. He's a sweet guy.
What a nice guy.
What a nice guy.
His intentions were in the right spot.
He truly,
which I
truly
love,
was.
and that shows his
Yes.
true character.
It does.
Yeah, that's at least
Let's
half
reflect
the
on
battle.
that.
So what for you, whether this is advice now or what it looked like for you at the time, church, school, kind of like separation of church and state thing, it can feel like. What does living out your faith look like in school, or like best like advice maybe? Because I know for me growing up in school, there was this pressure, like you have to get in there, meet all those heathens, and then get them saved by Jesus. And so like every relationship came with an agenda of like, I got to meet them just so that I can drag them to church and hope that they don't hate it and that they stick around long enough to get saved.
And pass out all these tracts.
Right.
Yeah. Got 20 to get out.
Yeah. And it just made faith in school miserable for me, because that's all it was. It was just like stressful. And if they're not turning into people who are exactly like you, then you're not doing it right. And I know now that is not true. And some of that was just like how like Christianity was 10 or 15 years ago. But what is your advice for like, what's it look like living as a real person and not just somebody passing out tracts? What does it look like to live out your faith in school?
I think for me, I'm going to use like a story that I kind of remember for a moment where I kind of realized what it looked like. And unfortunately, it was pretty late in the game, and maybe junior or senior year of walking through high school. But I remember, I don't remember what sport it was, but you know, the team had already changed and we're out in the gym, and I had got there late. And I go out in the gym, and like the whole team is like throwing basketball, dodgeball, whatever, at this one kid. And I just remember, like, first of all, like, that's something you see in a movie, like, for, like, picking and bullying.
You're like, is this
and
really
I'm like,
happening?
yeah, and I'm living it real.
Yeah.
And, like, at past points in my life, I would have probably joined in to be, like, because I didn't want to be that kid, right? And I remember that moment of like stepping in and using my influence, because I had a lot of influence, and I don't say that arrogantly, but like I had a lot of friends, and you know, I felt comfortable enough that if I used that influence, people would rally behind me instead of after him. And I just remember stepping into that moment and being like, guys, chill out. Like what in the world is going on? Yeah. And like it stopped, and I just used what influence I had at that school to stop it. I'm not using that story to like boost myself up, but like more of an encouragement for people to like, you have influence all over the place. Use it to do things like that and like, I don't know if that kid remembers that, like, you know, I don't even know where he is, but like in that moment, that made me feel probably better than, you know, like I don't remember hardly any of the sports stuff I did, and that was a huge part, but that like leading up to this podcast, I was like, that was something I was like,
that's really good.
Like came to me right away. And like, I think that's what kids want. Like when you talk about living out your faith, like that's what Jesus would do. Jesus would, and I'm not saying go into every bullying situation and step in. Like I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is, what is your body language towards those people, and how are you treating other people? Because Jesus taught to treat everybody the same, and to treat them like better than what they think they are even. And so I don't know, that was a cool moment that felt and still feels really good, and I still can't even believe that I did that. Like it's not what I would have done, and for whatever reason that day I stepped into it, and it was awesome. So,
that's good. What about you, Lainey?
That's really it kind of goes with it. I would say for me, school was really hard. I really struggled academically, and I had a learning disability my whole life and didn't know until college, actually, until I went to a psychologist and got it all figured out. And so I had really struggled in school, and I had tried my hardest, and so I had pretty low self-esteem when it came to academics, and I was just always looking towards getting out of school. Like, just once I get out of school, like I don't have to talk to these people anymore. Once I'm out of school, I don't have to worry about this, like all of that. And so I'm always thinking of, I just got to get through it. And I would say now, being a Christian and believing that Jesus has us where we're supposed to be for a reason, I wish I could tell Elena in high school that and say, don't see your life right now as an inconvenience, but see it as a way to be an influence, in the sense of you are learning things about yourself at that age, and I'm still learning about myself, giftings that the Lord has given me. One of the things in high school was I realized I had this love for serving special needs, the special needs classroom, and that was something that actually carried through to college for me. And if I didn't have that ability to, I guess, love the special needs community at my school, I don't think I would have developed the empathy that the Lord gave me. And so that's one thing where I go, I think for anybody daily when it comes to school, you're walking in with a lot of baggage, right? You're walking in with baggage from personal life. Maybe your parents have been fighting a lot. Maybe you don't even live with your parents. Maybe you live with like an aunt and uncle, grandparents, and you're expected to not only go to school, but also like manage your own emotions, maybe take care of a younger sibling, like all of this stuff. And you walk in with all this baggage, and it sometimes can feel like it's all about you. And I think what the Lord wants us to remember is everybody's walking in with that. And so we're just called to love people where they're at. And a lot of people don't feel like they're seen. A lot of people feel like they've just been passed over. And so I think something daily we can do is literally look people in the eye and smile at them.
Yep.
Literally. Like, that makes such a huge difference. Yes, sometimes in my case, it opens up conversations with weird people, but that's okay. Because in that moment, you are saying, Lord, like, I can at least do this. I can smile and make somebody like feel and know that someone loves them and that they are created in the image of God as well.
That's good. Knowing now what I know, and if I could go back, I think if you look at the Bible, if you look at the stories of Jesus, almost every time that he interacts with somebody, he takes care of some immediate physical need, and then gives them some instruction on how they should be living their life. So whether that's like healing a blind person, or somebody that can't walk, or multiplying food.
Right.
I think little acts of kindness go an incredibly long way, especially if you're preemptive about it. So, you know, if you see somebody fumbling around and clearly does not have a pencil and y'all are about to take a test, like, don't wait for them to ask. Just like grab your spare, toss it to them. Or if somebody doesn't have lunch, or doesn't have money for lunch, like, just buy them some and don't expect to be paid back. And that's the tough part, is like choosing love and choosing kindness. It will cost at some point.
Right.
But I think those little acts and just being generally a kind and loving person, that is what makes people start to trust you.
Yes.
And then they start to become curious as to like, why are you the way you are? And so, that's completely the opposite of what I was in high school, of like every relationship has to have an agenda, and that's not effective, and it's not a good way to live, because you're just like a robot with a mission, as opposed to like a human being that's interacting with other people.
Right.
So that's, I would think, just show tangible kindness, like praying for people, like good, great, super important, but like showing people and meeting immediate needs is like.
And I would even say, like, with that, with a few people, because God knows that we don't have the ability to dive in deep with every single person we meet, but I would say with a few people, try to actually get to know them instead, and don't make it this like shallow relationship, but instead try to get to know this person and who they are. And because if we have an eternal perspective of what the kingdom of God looks like, it looks like somebody who maybe is completely different from you. It's not just going to be you and your group of friends and band. It's not going to be like the saxophone section in the band all in heaven.
Brag
I mean,
about it.
we'd have some great music in heaven. Right. I played saxophone. But we have to be uncomfortable to be able to have influence.
Yeah. That's good. That's your tweetable right there. I think that's a perfect place to stop. Oh, no? Yeah?
No, I just hit my hand on the table.
Very emphatically.
I was stoked. I was like, that right there. She nailed it. Almost flipped the table over. Yeah, that was good.
Man, I think that's a good place to stop. Thank you both for sitting down with me on the first episode of the second season.
Yeah,
for sure.
All that said,
Good.
Thanks for hanging out. I hope you are both back at the table in the near future. And if you are watching or listening, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time backstage.